our tour at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, where we all are currently located, and where we are all taking Geography 155 with Professor Shambon Miller. I really liked this camera angle that I chose. It features, you can prominently see Old Father Memorial. You can see Haymarket Park back there. And while our campus is beautiful, we're about to take you on a journey to an area that is much more beautiful than our wonderful campus. So 4,000 miles away, we now focus on South America, home to places like Brazil, Ecuador, and Peru, which is where we take our focus now. Peru declared itself a country in 1821 and is known as a megadiverse country. As the third largest country in South America, it is home to arid plains in the Pacific coastal region, large mountain ranges, and is actually part of the Amazon rainforest basin. Peru is also home to one of the modern wonders of the world, Machu Picchu. As the oldest civilization in the Americas, the Incan Empire ruled this land from the 4th century BCE all the way until the Spanish Empire conquered the region in the 16th century. An abandoned relic from a bygone civilization, Machu Picchu remains one of the most intact and most beautiful places in the world.
Picchu is the mountain that directly overlooks Machu Picchu and is a part of the Greater Andes mountain range. Picchu is approximately 850 feet taller than Machu Picchu and is the most distinct physical geography element that surrounds the historical site. Picchu is a part of the Andes mountain range, which was formed as a result of the Nazca Plate being subducted under the South American Plate on the western edge. In this subduction zone, the denser tectonic plate, in this case the oceanic plate, goes below the less dense plate, which in this case is the South American plate. While Huayna Picchu is the tallest mountain in the immediate vicinity of Machu Picchu, it is far shorter mean sea level compared to other peaks in the broader vicinity of the Andes around Machu Picchu. Some of the tallest peaks in the area tower up to over 5,000 meters, where Huayna Picchu is only around 2,500 meters above sea level. The Urubamba River is the river that flows in the valleys surrounding Machu Picchu, and in fact flows around the entire area encompassing Machu Picchu on two sides. The Urubamba River is a headwater of the Amazon and originated in the Cunurana mountain, which is to the south of Machu Picchu. The river originates from this mountain and then travels north. It is partially navigable as it ascends through the Andes Mountains. The river travels north for 724 kilometers and eventually comes to confluence with the Tambo River and forms the Ucayali River as it continues to flow north, eventually feeding the Amazon. The river has several tributaries, and the river is divided into the upper and the lower Urubamba rivers, which each have distinct characteristics around irrigation, and in the case of the lower Urubamba River, which is much more primitive and focuses economy and way of life around forestry and is in general much more primitive with more indigenous populations.
An illustration of what historians believe Machu Picchu looked like at the height of its inhabitants. It was built as a palace for Emperor Pachacuti in the 15th century CE. It was eventually used for refuge from the Spain conquistadors.
While it is not known how scientifically well understood the Incas understood the fault lines and the tectonic activity that was happening, it is believed that they at least had some understanding of or familiarity with the fault lines that occurred in the area, as the native language has words that allow the description of fissures in the earth. The river was first mapped in 1934 by Edward Kellogg Strong III, and the mapping of the river was commissioned by the Peruvian military at the time. In the more immediate vicinity of Machu Picchu, the river flows through what is called the Sacred Valley.
The Spanish exploration of the Incan civilization was very important to Spain because it was a chance for explorers or conquistadors to go out and find riches that they could then bring back to Spain. Since the Spanish conquistadors never found Machu Picchu, there wasn't really much effect on the people of Machu Picchu at that time, other than a large number of Incan refugees probably sought shelter there while the conquest was happening. The leader of conquistadors was Francisco Pizarro. He had heard news of a rich and fabulous kingdom, and so that's when he went out looking for the Incan civilizations. Hiram Bingham was a professor of South American history at Yale, and he was also the one who rediscovered Machu Picchu. He was really interested in the mostly forgotten history of the Incas, and when he got a chance to organize a Peruvian expedition with Yale, he took that opportunity. And during that expedition, he found 3 lost cities of the Incas, one of them being Vicos, the second being Vilcabamba, and the third being Machu Picchu. Vilcabamba was the capital of the Incas, but he didn't know that, and he continued on to Machu Picchu, which he then thought was the capital of the Incas. This expedition was important because he found a lot of skeletons, artifacts, and exotic animals.
We will now use the rest of this tour to highlight a potential journey you can take today to visit the beautiful Machu. Most people start their journey in nearby Cusco, Peru. After your stay in Cusco, a bus will pick you up in the morning from your hotel in Cusco and take you on a 3-hour bus ride to the city of Vilcabamba, and then dropping you off in the village of Ollantaytambo. Here in Ollantaytambo, you will register at the Inca Trail checkpoint, where your adventure begins. The Inca Trail is a famous trail through the Andes Mountains that leads and ends at the Machu Picchu Palace. It actually was built by the Incas, and it still remains today. As you begin your journey on the Inca Trail, your first stop is the ruins of Lacatá, roughly translated from Cuenca as Hummingbird Village. This is one of the many villages burned by Emperor Yupanqui to discourage the Spanish from pursuing the Inca through the Andes Mountains. The first stop and /camp along the Incan Trail is Huelabamba, and it was established as a camping spot for those wishing to journey to Machu Picchu. It is known for its incredible views and stargazing. The highest point of the Incan Trail is known as Dead Woman's Pass, which may come as a relief to you as the hike is mainly downhill to the next campsite. The second campsite along the Inca Trail is much smaller than Huelabamba, but boasts even better views with it being at a higher elevation than Huelabamba. There is a nearby waterfall and a wide open vista with lots of greenery and mountain ranges. Another notable archaeological site along the trail is Sayac Marco, which was actually visited by Hiram Bingham, which he dubbed as Cedrobamba, or Cedar Plain. Sayac Marco, translated from Cuenca, is known as Dominant Town. It was originally built by the Kala, but after the Incans defeated them, they inhabited the town. Another archaeological site along the trail is Puyo Market. Translated, it means the city above the clouds. There you can find the remnants of 5 stone baths, which during the wet season contains fresh running water. Getting closer to Machu Picchu now, another stop along the trail is Intihuatana, or the Palace of the Sun. The Place of the Sun, excuse me. It is known for its beautiful step terraces used by the Incas for farming at these high elevations. Translated, it means forever young. Winnewana is one of the more beautiful towns with step terraces along the trail. Overlooking the Urubamba is one of the more intact stops along the trail. If you have vertigo, I would be wary of this stop, as its step terraces go nearly all the way down the mountain. The Sun Gate is the last stop along the Inca Trail before you reach Machu Picchu. It was a guardhouse that marked the principal entrance into the palace. The gate was clearly placed in a strategic spot along the Inca Trail, which leads historians to believe that entrance to Machu Picchu was limited, even to the Inca people. After walking through the Sun Gate and a short hike later, we finally reach Machu Picchu. It is so in all the sights.